There are those movies that people watch that are pretty bad, but enjoyably bad. People enjoy films like Tommy Wiseau's The Room, Birdemic, or Superman 4 because of their bizarrely terrible moments within them. My personal favorite bad film of all time definitely isn't one of those types of horrible movies, but it's still a movie that I see as bad that I, for some reason, have a soft spot for. It's the 1998 Warner Bros. Feature animation movie, Quest for Camelot. Made to be an answer for the animated musicals that Disney was making during the 90s, Warner Bros. Was sure they were making a hit, and brought on names like Jessalyn Gilwig, Carrie Elways, Gary Oldman, Eric Idle, Don Rickles, and Pierce Brosnan for the acting, while grabbing Celine Dion, Brian White, and Andrea Corr for the singing. However, with the company's history of poor marketing and rough developments across all their animated films at the time besides Space Jam, Quest for Camelot, alongside The Iron Giant, Cats Don't Dance, Osmosis Jones, and Looney Tunes Back in Action, were all financial failures. This in turn made Warner Bros. Feature animation close down, and Warner Bros. Didn't release their own animated films for over a decade until the Lego Movie in 2014. So what piques my interest so much that this shameless Disney copycat is my favorite bad movie ever? It's because genuinely, there are things to appreciate, but mainly it's for some of the more ironically funny moments. In fact, I originally made a script for Quest for Camelot to be my first review way back in 2018, so this was a long time coming. So, after almost 8 years since I planned a Quest for Camelot script, has the film gotten worse since then? Let's ride to Camelot and see how deep this medieval hellscape truly goes. Off the bat, we get the intro, where we meet our lead, Kaylee, who wants to be a knight of the Round Table like her dad, Lionel. He's explaining the story of King Arthur and his sword Excalibur, and how Camelot was built upon him becoming the rightful king. Speaking of Kaylee's dad, if we know anything about generic Disney-esque movies, and how this sappy intro is going, this man's gonna die, right? Anyways, his fellow knights pick him up and ride off for Camelot. I will say a compliment to the animation right now is definitely the background design. Camelot and the surrounding areas look great, and you'll see later that they get a lot more creative. It's the really big, consistently good thing about the animation. And with this being a musical, we get our first song as we head into Camelot with United We Stand, an anthem for the knights and King Arthur about how they are as a unit, and how they treat each other as equals as well as the residents in the kingdom, each having their own part in the group. This, however, shows an issue with the animation is how inconsistent it can be. Because there are plenty of times where the animation can get really smooth, then suddenly very choppy, often within the same scenes. Also, I would like to point out that the animation obviously wants to look like Disney. It's unmistakable that the film wants to sell the look of a Disney movie for audiences who are being shown the movie or even seeing the poster. After their song, we are introduced to the movie's villain, Ruber, who reminds me of the memes we've been getting recently about how there's this Jesus animated movie where you can clearly tell who Judas is. It's basically the same logic here. While the other knights look like your standard knights, Ruber looks like some sort of a demon or some dog man. So Ruber is a man who, after being rejected of more than equal share of the land compared to his fellow knights, attempts to steal Excalibur, and in the process, kills Lionel. Wow, it really did not take long for him to die. He swore revenge and fled, threatening to steal the sword again in the future. We then head on to Lionel's funeral, where I can't take it seriously because how they animated Arthur was so strange that I was more laughing than actually invested. Then we just randomly get another song. While the first one felt appropriate for its scene, On My Father's Wings just suddenly pops up seemingly out of nowhere, and we got a glimpse of what the next 10 years of Kaylee would be after losing her father. All while looking like if Belle from Beauty and the Beast grew her hair out. Again, bringing up the look being too similar to the Disney style, she is the biggest culprit of this. And with this sort of Disney-like protagonist, her song kind of feels like it wants to emulate that kind of song, but I'll give credit that it does sound nice, being a song about her living on with her dad's memories still with her.
And I can feel his heartbeat still, and I will do great things on my Father's wings.
With that being said, there's still some animation issues that are here. Like, for example, Kaylee's horse being completely stiff until she starts to ride on top of it. And my personal favorite, when she's holding a long note, her mouth closes multiple times during it for some reason. So instead of sounding like this,
I will be free.
It should sound like this.
I will be free.
When we cut back to the story, Excalibur was eventually stolen by a griffin before being dropped into the Forbidden Forest, which houses living plants that struck him while attempting to get it back. Once word came out that Excalibur was stolen, Kaylee wants to retrieve the sword and save Camelot, to the dismay of her mother Juliana, who wants to keep her safe by having her stay home, as animated films often do at the time. Those words were quickly reversed, however, as Ruber takes siege at their home, and
Camelot Let's go back to war and violence.
Another song within a split second. No setup, no anything. Rupert was just threatening Juliana and Camelot, and then just boom, song.
Let darkness find its sad ways. Let's go back to good old bad days. Arthur and his kingdom will be mine.
Not only that, but it's a pretty awful villain song. All Rupert does is yell and proclaim Camelot will be his, and explaining his plan with mostly talk singing. And not to mention, Rupert throughout the film is such a pathetically written villain that it seems like his dialogue is chosen through a generic villain line dartboard. In fact, he says mine so often in the film that I went through the transcript and it turns out he says it at least 10 different times. My only compliment to the song is the character designs, because while the humans look like plain Disney carbon copies, the more mythical designs, like for example Rupert's weapon creatures, which were made by fusing his men with weapons, are creative and add that bit of flair that Rupert was lacking as an actual freaking character.
You were mistaken if you believed Rupert was someone who'd crumble and leave.
However, the trade-off is that he first dumped one of Kaylee's chickens in the pit and made the worst character of the film, Bladebeak, who is just there to make pop culture references without any purpose except to make you wish that you were watching Monty Python's versions of these nights instead. That one is at least a great movie with timeless jokes and an actual consistent tone. By the way, speaking of his monster pit, the potion he used had Acme on it, so are you telling me that Acme's been running since the 6th century? Also, how Kaylee got out of capture was honestly ridiculous, because one of the guards who held her ran towards the pit and let her go by accident. The Griffin, who belongs to Rupert, tells him about losing Excalibur to the Forbidden Forest, and Kaylee sets out to find it. As she rides off, her mother sings a pretty nice song about praying for her safety.
Help me to let go.
This is The Prayer, which most people know as a standout amongst Celine Dion's track list, currently standing in 9th on her all-time list on Spotify with almost 170 million listens. And it's probably the only successful thing to come out from this movie. In fact, it was nominated for Best Original Song at the Oscars and actually won at the Golden Globes for the same award. On its own, it's nice to listen to, but it has one major drawback. They decided to play this song while the weapon monsters are chasing Kaylee. And I swear this is one of the worst ways the song was implemented into a scene. How can you ruin a genuinely great song and slice it down to a quarter of its length while changing the lyrics to fit the movie and make it about a chase scene? Once Kaylee enters the forest, she meets Garrett, a hermit who, with ease, defeated the weapon guys. One thing to possibly shout out to the filmmakers for is his portrayal. Garrett is actually blind, and given it being the 90s, usually characters like him at the time would either be some sort of punchline or have his blindness be some sort of detriment. Thankfully, they don't go that route and show time and time again he's got the capabilities of being a strong fighter. Once told about Excalibur being in the forest by Kaylee, he insists on going alone with his falcon Aiden, as he is a hermit after all and doesn't want any distractions. And while the comedy in the film is basically non-existent, this scene does give me the biggest laugh for one big reason.
Not you. Me and Aiden. We work alone.
Well, I see no reason why I can't come along.
I know the sound of each rock.
So, as you can obviously hear, that is definitely not Carrie Elway's singing. Once again, another out-of-nowhere song. It is now accompanied by the most obvious replacement singer I've ever heard in a movie musical, with a voice provided by country singer Brian White.
I share my world with no one else. All by myself, I stand alone.
As the song's title, I Stand Alone, suggests, it is a song reflecting Garrett's desire to be left alone. And despite the random nature of the sudden voice change, the song itself is actually surprisingly really good.
Like every tree stands on its own. Reaching for the sky, I stand alone.
And it really adds emphasis to how really great the environment design is, because the Forbidden Forest looks fantastic, actually. All the different creatures, and how Garrett interacts with the environment in such a seamless way. Of course, Kaylee convinces him that she can come with, and she gets annoying fast, just dancing around while Garrett is constantly saving her from danger while talking non-stop, acting like she's this big hotshot all of a sudden. Which makes me point out, Kaylee, who wants to prove herself as a knight so badly, constantly proves time and time again how she's not capable, even much later on. We cut to Ruber, and I might as well point out another reason why Ruber sucks as a villain is that he, for the majority of the film, just waltzes around trying to get the sword and follows their group the whole time. And then shenanigans ensue and repeat with zero substance. He seems to work more as an obstacle than a real villain, but he's not even good at that! As Kaylee and Garrett delve through the forest more, they end up in Dragon Country, an area full of rocks, sulfur, and acid, which are all really nicely drawn like all the remaining backgrounds. And again, Kaylee is talking non-stop for no reason, which kind of makes you wish Garrett was the lead instead. Also, Garrett proves again why he's the best character of the film.
Quiet.
Do you hear something?
No. I just want you to be quiet.
Once again, Kaylee's proving her worth to the mission as she's begging for Garrett's help again, as they would find themselves meeting a two-headed dragon named Devon and Cornwall, named after counties in England. They are the main comic reliefs played by Eric Idle and Don Rickles, who, if my comments on the comedy were anything to go by, they are not only unfunny, but they are practically useless for a lot of the film. They're mostly there to butt heads and make more lame jokes and pop culture references, while also not being able to fly or breathe fire, which of course means they're just a detriment to the team. Why do they have two heads, you ask? Well...
What are you?
Well, frankly, we're the reason cousins shouldn't marry.
Great! Incest jokes! Bring these guys on board for writing Rick and Morty. So the real dragons, as well as Ruber, show up, and the group jump into a tunnel to hide. Remember how I said the mythical designs are the best character designs of the film? These dragons look great, and I didn't even mention how cool the griffin looks too. While I give Ruber a lot of flack, he does have one good scene, where he literally punches a dragon in the face, and it turns out he actually killed it. When we head into the duo's hideout, yes, another out of nowhere song. The song is basically exactly what you know these two for, being two-headed, hating each other, and wanting to separate, with them fantasizing about what they would do when they split up, with If I Didn't Have You.
Oh, what I could be if there was only me. Oh, what I'd do if I didn't have you.
And I swear, one of these writers must have made a bet to shove in as many pop culture references as possible, because to list them all off in this one song alone, we have The Lion King, The Phantom of the Opera, slasher movies, Godzilla, Looney Tunes, Little Red, Sonny and Cher, and f***ing Elvis? Thank God Idle and Rickles are doing a good job on the singing portion, because this song is pointless and desperate for cheap laughs that it can only take good performance to even somewhat salvage it. My biggest compliment to the song is definitely the animation. While most of the characters are animated to be more down to earth, Devon and Cornwall are where the animators can let loose and have fun with their movements, and it's done so well. You'd think they'd clash with the rest of the characters, but they surprisingly don't. And it makes some of the visual gags kind of work, because while the jokes aren't funny, the more visual gags actually work better. Overall, I don't think I can call this song bad because the performance is in animation, but compared to the rest, it's among one of the film's weaker songs. Not only that, but they kind of don't acknowledge the song after it's done, and poor Garrett is forced to have more annoying people join him. After some time, we learned how Garrett lost his sight, as when he was a stable boy, he helped horses escape a fire when one accidentally kicked him in the face. And it was Kaylee's father Lionel who helped him and encouraged him to follow his dream of becoming a knight. Garrett fled to the forest once Ruber killed Lionel, and Merlin's falcon Aiden came to aid him so that he wouldn't encounter danger. And Garrett shows Kaylee how he and Aiden have been working in tandem with each other. Aiden went on to find Excalibur, or at least the belt, before Ruber showed up. And because Kaylee couldn't shut up for more than a couple of seconds, it allowed Garrett to get shot by an arrow. Kaylee finally proved herself for once by immobilizing Ruber and his goons before they fled. Again, Ruber just proves more and more that he is such a worthless villain. The group camps out, and we aren't even given more than a minute before Garrett breaks out into song again, which of course is still pretty funny. Kaylee uses a healing plant that Garrett pointed out in an earlier scene and heals Garrett's wounds. The two have a romantic ballad which also serves as a training montage of sorts called Looking Through Your Eyes.
It's out of our hands, we can't stop what we have begun.
Personally, I do not buy that these two suddenly have a romance. These two have been arguing the whole film, and just because Garrett is injured and was healed, he suddenly catches feelings for her? With this being the last song of the movie, wait, it's only been less than 51 minutes? Yes, another significant drawback with the soundtrack is how the songs were formatted. Not only are the songs mostly out of nowhere, we basically get these songs every 7 minutes and then suddenly stop with 23 minutes of the film left. which excludes the credits. A good soundtrack would space the songs out significantly, and mapping out the seconds between the start of the film and the end of this song, 35% of the 53-ish minutes are dedicated to the songs. Not to say that the songs altogether sucked, it's more how the movie handles these songs that are the biggest problem. As for this one, it's a rather mixed bag. Song-wise, it's pretty good. The singers, Brian and Andrea, sound really great, but the downside is that it shares the same issue with The Prayer, where Devin and Cornwall are goofing off and making gags at the same time, causing this clash that's annoying, and it for sure doesn't fit with the song. You know what, screw it, I'm gonna make a ranking within this review. Every song in Quest for Camelot ranked, let's go. I'm gonna improvise this entire thing.
You sly dog! You got me monologuing!
Ruber is such an awful villain song, and Ruber himself is an awful villain, and the song is literally just him rambling about his freaking evil plan, and he just shouts, oh, it's all gonna be mine, and it's just, God, the only thing that is remotely interesting is the whole weapon minions thing, because otherwise this song is just genuinely trash.
Look how they massacred my boy.
The Prayer, honestly, is such a sad one, because, like, the original The Prayer is so good that when you implement it into a song like this and into a movie like this, the way it's utilized for a fucking chase scene is so embarrassing. I hate it, actually. Like, what did you do? Like, how dare you, like, kill such a song like this?
Who are you?
He's your brother, you idiot.
If I Didn't Have You is probably the most pointless song in the entire soundtrack. Like, visually is the best one, actually, and Eric Idle and Don Rickles' performances are really good, and yeah, that's all I can really say. It's really nicely animated, and it is pointless, so yeah.
Look into my eyes.
Looking Through Your Eyes is kind of a plain, like, romantic ballad, but honestly, it's sweet, and I like it. I do kind of like it. Like, this is where the good songs start, and honestly, there we go. It does suffer a bit with the whole scenes not fitting the song kind of thing, because they decided, you know, let's throw f***ing dragons in there and see what kind of comedic antics they'll have, and f*** it, I don't like it.
My dad
3
died.
2. You wasted my time a little.
On My Father's Wings is a good song. I like it. There are some kind of goofy moments within it, but honestly, I still kind of like it.
Take us to the flowers.
I Stand Alone is so good and underrated, honestly. If it wasn't for the fact that, like, his voice is so different from the speaking voice, like, honestly, this could have been, like, a lot better. I don't know if it's gonna be the #1 if it was, like, just Carrie Elway's singing, but honestly, it would have been a major improvement, maybe, or maybe just don't have Carrie be the voice and just have Brian White in there. I don't fucking know. Anyway, United We Stand is the best song, so yeah, it's kind of a shame that, like, the best song is the start of the film, but whatever. United We Stand is still pretty great, and honestly, that's all I can really say. The group finally finds Excalibur, and it's in the hands of a giant rock ogre who actually looks really bad. They use CGI for him, and it's beyond noticeable. To think this is the same studio that made the Iron Giant the next year, which still looks unbelievable today. Either way, same old Ruber shenanigans as the crew gets Excalibur, and Garrett decides to stay behind in the Forbidden Forest after reaching the end, stating that he does not belong in Camelot. Which is a terrible idea, because as soon as he left, Ruber caught up, captured Kaylee, and took Excalibur, which he used the potion on it so he could fuse it with his arm, which actually looks really cool, I'll give it that. Once the brothers told Garrett about this because they cowered in fear of the attack, they learned that their inability to fly and breathe fire was because they could never agree on anything. So when they finally learned to fly, the boys flew towards Camelot. Once Ruber laid siege to Camelot by using Juliana as bait, Bladebeak suddenly helped Kaylee for seemingly no reason, and Kaylee warned the citizens of the trap that he has laid. Kaylee would then reunite with Garrett, Devin, and Cornwall. The boys would fight off the Griffin, while Kaylee and Garrett go towards the castle, where Ruber encounters Arthur again, now with Excalibur, ready to kill him. The boys would save Aiden from almost getting eaten by the Griffin and learn to breathe fire and win their fight, while Kaylee and Garrett burst through and save Arthur. Kaylee gets the idea to head towards the stone Excalibur was originally from, and with the help of Garrett's teachings, they both bait Ruber into striking the stone, and he dies from the overflow of magic. And with him gone, the potions wear off, and we finally reach the end, where Arthur announces Kaylee and Garrett as Knights of the Round Table for saving Camelot as they ride off together as the credits roll. Oh my god, Quest for Camelot. As you can imagine, Quest for Camelot is a film that I love to dislike. It's got everything from good but inconsistent animation, terrible comedy, poorly written characters, a clumsily handled soundtrack, and an overall story that is messy and has some major tone problems, with this overall layer that it just wants to be a Disney movie without even knowing what it's doing. However, I do like some aspects of the film. Like most of the animation, some songs are pretty good, a whole lot of creative ideas, and the performances can have their moments. Personally, I can only recommend this film to those who are seriously into musicals, or at least people who are into Disney-esque films while going outside Disney. You know the films like Ferngully, Thumbelina, Swan Princess, and all that. And I know there are people out there who call Quest for Camelot underrated, and I'm happy for them. I really do like that. But personally, I cannot be one of those people. The flaws are just too much to ignore. If I had another group to recommend this for, are people who love watching bad movies. There's definitely enough fuel to make this experience worth it. I juggled on what rating I should give the film, but considering it's my favorite bad movie of all time, I'll give it the highest rating a bad film can get, and that's a 4 out of 10. Thank you guys for watching. I have a couple reviews coming up in the next couple of months, and I hope to see you there. Okay, bye.